Most of us spend our entire lives trying to earn what we might call moral and spiritual bucks. We exhaust ourselves piling up good deeds, correct beliefs, and proper behaviors, hoping to eventually buy our way into feeling like we matter. Because we are so obsessed with keeping score, we naturally project that same transactional mindset onto everything we read. When we look at the parables of Jesus, we tend to read them as self-improvement manuals, a set of instructions where we earn points for acting the right way. Take the Good Samaritan. We look at this story and immediately turn it into a checklist for how to be a nice person. We identify with the hero, assuming the point is to go out, bandage some wounds, and rack up enough moral credit to secure our standing. We build an entire mental ledger around this kind of thinking. We weigh our good actions against our bad ones, constantly trying to balance the books. We think that if the math works out in our favor, we will finally find safety and approval. But as long as we treat these stories as a guide to improving the improvable parts of ourselves, we stay trapped. We lock ourselves inside a system of continuous spiritual auditing that never actually gives us rest. The theologian Robert Ferrar Capon noticed a massive flaw in how we read these texts. He argued that if you look closely at these stories, you will find zero notes of earning. There is no reward for being a good person. This text from Capon's work shows exactly what he means. He writes that grace, as portrayed here, works only on the untouchable, the unpardonable, by raising the dead, not by rewarding the living. It completely bypasses human merit. This idea glitches the moral math we rely on. If God isn't looking to reward our good behavior or punish our bad behavior, the parables stop being a set of holes. They become something entirely organic, completely outside our control, and terrifyingly free. Capon argues that when we look at characters like the man in the ditch or the prodigal son, we are seeing people who have run out of options. The only thing left to discuss in their story is their resurrection. Consider the parable of the unforgiving servant. Usually, we focus entirely on the servant's bad behavior, how he is forgiven a massive debt, but then refuses to forgive a tiny debt owed to him by someone else. But doing that misses the radical action taken by the king. Look at this passage. Capon points out that the king doesn't just forgive a single debt, he dies to his previous life. He goes entirely out of the debt-collecting business. The divine bookkeeping stops. The servant's actual error isn't just being mean. His mistake is failing to realize that the king has killed the ledger. The servant tries to collect a debt using a mathematical system that literally no longer exists. This is the central tragedy of the story. The servant's unforgivingness is a symptom of a much deeper problem, an absolute refusal to live in a world where no one is keeping score. Grace, then, is a drama where God simply shuts up once and for all on the subject of bookkeeping. Here in Capon's text, he introduces an unsettling idea that God is willing to be perceived as a bad God. He ignores strict justice entirely, for no better reason than to get the problems of a world full of losing winners off his back. This page applies this to the Good Samaritan. Capon identifies the Samaritan as Christ, finding a man practically dead. He physically enters the outcastness and lostness of the man on the ground, taking on his helpless state to pull him back to life. This unilateral rescue directly conflicts with our deep desire for spiritual progress. We want to do our part, to show some effort, to offer a tit-for-tat exchange. But a corpse can't negotiate a rescue. As this excerpt concludes, grace does not do things tit-for-tat. It acts finally and fully from the start. The rescue happens without our permission, without our help, and without our merit. We see right here on the page why this is so difficult for us to accept. Capon writes that your heart has a desperate need to believe its exact opposite. We hate grace because it destroys our ability to build an identity based on the approval of others, or on our own spotless records. In the parable of the Pharisee and the publican, the Pharisee boasts about his perfect record, while the publican simply beats his breast and asks for mercy. The publican's power lies in his confession that he is completely dead and bankrupt. The only thing we can actually bring to the party of grace is our death. We do not bring our improvements, our good intentions, or our moral bucks. Everything required for the party is already provided. Look at how the text describes the ideal religious leader. Not as a compelling pulpiteer with an ego to match, but as a faithful household cook, someone whose only job is to simply feed the resurrected, rather than trying to fix them. This passage explicitly states the core message those cooks are supposed to deliver. God will not count our records against us. What the Son offers is the silence of his death on the subject of our sins. The ledger is closed. The books have been burned. There is nothing left to earn and no one left to pay. We are finally free for nothing. These parables document God's single-handed journey into the grave of human failure to find us and bring us home.